So let's do the Birthstone Book Tag. So this tag was created by JG, and I'll leave her links down below. And she actually recommended that I do this on Twitter, and I checked it out and I'm like, oh, I love these questions. They're so cool, very different. And I decided I wanted to do it as well. So I have my trusty handy laptop, and I'm going to read the first question, and that is January Garnet. Associated with warding off negative forces and dark energies, name a book with the darkest/evilest character you can think of. So for this question, there were so many books that I could have chosen, and I decided to go with The Diviners by Libba Bray because Dirty John, like, scared the living everything out of me. Like, I read the audiobook, and I think reading it that way, his character just comes off so much more scary, and he does a lot of like awful, horrible things in this book. So I'm just like, I feel like that's like the best villain to choose from. I had a couple other answers, but I decided to go with this one because I mean, like, Dirty John is like the epitome of a villain, and I felt like this was a good one to go with because it is so creepy and he's so creepy, and it just really fit the question so perfectly. The next question is February Amethyst, and that is purple is associated with royalty. Name a book with regal qualities. You can base this off of characters or choose the king of all books. So I decided to base my answer off of the title, and that is The Iron King by Julie Kagawa, and I really love this series. It's such like a quintessential YA fairy fantasy book, and I feel like it's like an OG. It's really one of the originals, so it felt like the perfect way to answer this question by both a book with the king in the title and also kind of like the king of fairy fantasy YA books. So the next question is March Aquamarine, and that's actually my birth month and obviously my birthstone. And the question is Washed Out. Name a wishy-washy character, a character who is not strong or a follower. So for this one, it was a super difficult question to answer because I feel like so many characters are strong in their own different way. But I decided to go with Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and all of the characters in that book are like very wishy-washy, not very strong-minded. They're all either like followers, or they don't really have a mind of their own, or they're just like not really great characters, like, just in my opinion. I know so many people love that book, and props to you if you love that book. You know, I really wanted to, but I feel like all those characters are so wishy-washy. None of them can make a decision to save their lives, like literally, and it's just, I cannot stand any of the characters. I don't like any of them. The next question is April, and that is Diamond, a diamond in the rough. Name a book that you loved but is not well known. So for this one, I decided to go with Here We Are Now by Jasmine Warga, and I just recently read this book, I think about a month ago, and I love this book so much. It's so underrated. I feel like nobody else has really read this book and like raved about it, but it's so well done. It's very short, but it's so sweet. It's such a wonderful contemporary. And basically it's about this girl, and she's never been told who her dad is, but she has a very strong suspicion that it's a famous rock star from, I think, like, what, the 90s? And so for, I think, years or months, she's been writing to him, telling him, hey, I think I'm your daughter, can we meet, whatever. And one day, out of the blue, he ends up on her doorstep, and it really goes from there. And it's such a sweet story about family and figuring out all these secrets and who your family really is. And it's just wonderful. It's such a sweet book. I feel like so many people would love this book, but they either just don't know about it, or it's just not hyped enough, and it really needs to be hyped up more. It's such a cute book. I love it so much. The next month is May, and that's Emerald, and the question is, said to balance energy. Name two characters who balance each other well. So for this one, I decided to go with Lost Stars by Claudia Gray because, you know, whenever I hear the word balance, I always think of the dark side and the light side and the balance between them. And I feel like this book is like perfect for illustrating that balance. Basically, it's about these two characters within the Star Wars universe, Thane Kyrell and Sienna Rhee, and they grow up wanting to be part of the Empire and wanting to be pilots for the Empire. But then as their lives go on and they have these different life experiences and they get to see exactly what the Empire is up to, Sienna ends up staying with the Empire and then Thane ends up joining the rebellion. And so it's such an interesting book about these two people who are on opposite sides and who still love each other and have to kind of navigate that love and navigate their conflicting views. And it's so wonderful. I love this book, and it's definitely all about balance. And if you want to start off with the Star Wars book, this is where you need to start. The next month is June, and that's a Pearl. And the question is, associated with loyalty, name a character who is loyal to the end. And for this question, I decided to go with one of the most obvious answers, and that is Kenji from the entire Shatter Me series. I was about to say trilogy, I don't know if you caught that, but I decided to go with Kenji, and especially in this book, he is such a loyal friend to Juliet constantly throughout the entire series. From the moment they meet and become friends, Kenji is just so dedicated to be loyal to Juliet. And I love their friendship. I think it's so wonderful. One of my favorite friendships in like any YA book ever. And I don't know, their friendship is just so cute. I love them. Question number 7 is July Ruby. Blood Red, name a book that made your blood boil, one that made you angry. So there are plenty of books that make my blood boil, but this one really takes the cake, and that is Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I know so many people love this series. I, however, do not like it. Yes, I've read most of the second book, did not like it, couldn't really agree with it. Don't like the characters in these books. I just cannot stand them. Rhys, hate Rhys. Literally everybody else, Tamlin, don't like him either. So really can't vibe with this series. It really made me mad when I read it. It made me so mad I started crying. That's how mad I was about this book, that I literally burst into tears thinking about how much I hated it. It just did not agree with me. Sorry. The next question is for August, and that is Peridot. I actually never know how to say that word, but we're just gonna go with Peridot. Peridot? I don't really know. And that's pale green. It pales in comparison to other gems. Name a supporting character who you like better than the main character. So this one was a really tough question to answer because I feel like I kind of start off liking the supporting characters more than the main characters sometimes, and then by the end of the series, I kind of change my mind. Like, that really happened with Caraval. I liked Tella so much more than Scarlet in the first book, and then the second book, I ended up being like, I miss Scarlet more than I like Tella, and so that just happens. But I finally did think of a book where I do like one of the supporting characters more than the main character, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I love this series. It's definitely my favorite Sarah J. Maas series, and I actually like Kale way more than I like Selena / Aelin. And as you can see, I did tab up this book when I last reread it, and I don't know, I just love Kale. He's just my favorite character. He's been my favorite since I first read this book, and throughout the entire series, he's been my favorite. So I guess I should be holding up his book, but I don't feel like getting up and getting it. So we're just gonna hold up Throne of Glass because this is where I fell in love with him, and I just love Kale. He's my favorite. He is like my book boyfriend. He's adorable. I love him. We stan. The next question is for September, and that is a Sapphire. Blue like the ocean, which is calming. Name a book that had a calming effect on you. And so for this one, I chose Like Water by Rebecca Potos, and this book definitely had a calming effect on me. You can't even see it because I'm wearing black and the book cover is white. But I did choose this book not only because it was calming, but also because the title is Like Water and water is blue, so I figured it kind of like fit with like the whole sapphire thing. And I don't know, this book is so underhyped and so underrated. I really loved it. It's a very like quiet, calming YA contemporary, and it's also queer, which is great. It's also Latinx, and I don't know, I just loved this book when I read it. It was so wonderful. Basically, it's about this girl, and she's having to support her family, and she ends up getting a job over the summer to be a mermaid for a water slide park? What do you call those places? A water park? Why am I forgetting the name for is it a water park? Let me know down below. Is that called a water park? Where there's water slides? I feel like there's a different name for it. Anyway, she becomes a mermaid, and not a real mermaid. You know, like those mermaid performers? That's what she becomes. Anyway, it's a cute book, it's queer, it's Latinx, you need to read it. The next question is for October, and that is Opal. Iridescent. Name an iridescent book. This can be a book with a beautiful cover, or you can base it off of a character. So I decided to go with The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw because the cover is iridescent. Look at how beautiful it is. For some reason, the longer I've had this book, the more like the cover has wiped off, so it's less iridescent than the first time I got it, but it's still really beautiful. As you can see, this part is really, really wiped off, unfortunately, but it's so pretty and so iridescent. Look at the cover. The next question is for November, and that is Topaz. Associated with resilience, name a book with a character who rises to the top in a time of adversity. And I decided to go with Charlotte from A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro because Charlotte has gone through a lot of shitty things in her life. They've really affected her, but she keeps on going and she is so resilient and she's so intelligent and smart and strong. And I really love her as a character. She's one of my all-time favorite YA characters. And I don't know, I just love her. I wish I could be that resilient. I hope that I am that resilient, and she's just wonderful. And the very last question is for December, and that is Blue Zircon. How do you say that? There are so many words that I cannot say in this tag, and that is associated with friendship. Name a book with a friendship you want to be part of. So I decided to go with the friend group in The Only Thing Worse Than Me Is You by Lily Anderson, and this is a Much Ado About Nothing retelling, and I think even in Much Ado About Nothing, I would want to be part of that friend group with Beatrice and Benedict and Hero, and not so much Claudio, but I'll take Claudio if he's part of the deal. So I just love all of those characters, and they are all represented in this book so beautifully. I really love this one. It's a great Shakespeare retelling if you're looking for them. And even if you're not looking for a Shakespeare retelling, it's just a fun contemporary with some really fun, layered, complex characters, and they're wonderful. And I want to be friends with Beatrice. I want to be friends with Benedict. I want to be friends with Hero. So they're all such a great friend group, and they're all very tight-knit, and I don't know, I just love them so much. Alright, so that was the Birthstone Book Tag, and thank you JG for creating this book tag, and also for telling me on Twitter to do this tag. It was so much fun. I loved the questions, and I'm gonna tag a bunch of people down below to do this tag as well. I can't say anybody off the top of my head, but I will figure it out down below, so check if your name's down there. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!
Ooh, I thought it'd be me and you. Oh.